Good afternoon and welcome to this Thursday's Thought. Well, I think many of us, as we go about our days, at least at times, we're aware of some of the headlines that are in the news of the day. Seems that the news kind of goes in cycles. We hear about something the news organizations believe to be important one day, then hear about it again the next day and the next. And then when something else new and newsworthy comes along, the old news topic is dropped many times, never to be heard from again, even though that same situation or event is still going on. Sometimes the news people insert a good news story into the mixture. It's usually about some good deed done by someone, or perhaps it's a look at some kind of special relationship between people, or maybe it involves an animal in a feel-good way. These stories are bountiful, but don't seem to get the airtime that the disaster and bad behavior stories receive. And if you're like me, some days you look at the headlines and wonder if the world truly has gone over the edge. It's so bad some days you don't even want to read or hear the story itself. And you're sorry you even looked at the headlines because they just ruined your whole day. Well, today was such a day for me. I will often go to one of the local television station web pages in the morning and just briefly look over the headlines. Here's what one station had on its page today. These are all headlines, by the way. Wildfires kill livestock in Texas and Kansas. Man charged with capital murder in East Wichita motel shooting. Extra security at USD 266 due to an unsubstantiated threat. Putin threatens nuclear war if troops sent to aid Ukraine. Kellogg's CEO criticized for cereal for dinner comment. Man allegedly causes $550,000 in damage to rail cars. And last, but certainly not least, Utah study reveals the best place for UFO sightings. Now, I know these headlines aren't unusual. These types of stories come out in the news every day. But today, for some reason, I took a quick look at them and I went, ugh, in my mind, and decided to close the web page without any further perusal of the stories. I also woke up today with the beginnings of a headache and had some additional aches this morning from some more strenuous activity yesterday than I normally engage in. So I wasn't in any great frame of mind anyway today, and probably should never have even looked at the news from overnight. Now, I could, given my frame of mind, the absurdity and depravity of some of the headlines, and a general malaise, let today just continue to go downhill, or I could see what I could do to make some lemonade, so to speak, from what is left of my optimism and positivity today. Well, I have to admit that I have to work to keep myself from getting too riled up over the headlines. Political headlines especially are sometimes a real issue for me. I believe that I need to have some understanding of what is happening in political circles, yet I also need to not get so worked up over those things about which I can do nothing. I have no control over what Mr. Trump or Mr. Biden may say or do. I cannot vote for or against a certain bill or resolution in the Congress, the state legislature, or the county commission, or the city council for that matter. I believe I need to be aware, and I can and I do communicate with my representatives, but once that's done, I pretty much just need to let it go. And as far as the other headlines go, people are going to do bad and, shall I say it, stupid things. People are going to say things they ought not to have said, at least publicly. The environment, the weather, and the natural world will not always be rainbows and unicorns, so what can I do? Well, the one thing that I can do, but many times forget to do, is talk with the one who is the ultimate authority, the ultimate power, the ultimate control. I can speak with him anytime regarding the situations here I can petition for relief and do my part to bring a renewed creation into my sphere of influence. Well, you may think that prayer, that's what I've been talking about here, that communication with God, you may think that that's a cop-out and an abdication of my responsibility somehow to try to effect real change. You may think that instead of prayer, I need to join a political party, or I need to be part of a protest in front of City Hall, or maybe contribute to a political action committee or some other thing. You may think that I'm just checking out, so to speak, and I'm not being realistic about how things really are. Well, I assure you that I know what goes on in the real world. I'm very familiar with death and dying. I see poverty and daily work to help alleviate it. I know all too well what it means to be homeless. I know of the struggles of single parenting. I've spent years in public service of one kind or another. No, I'm not an expert in every social ailment, but I've been around enough to have some comprehension of many aspects of society and the world situation which make the news from time to time. And I've found prayer to be an effective tool, if you will, as I continue in life. I think you might also find it beneficial and effective. Nothing else has worked for you, has it? It can't hurt to give it a try. Give your anxiety, your anger, and your fears regarding the news headlines over to God. He's big enough to take it all on. Blessings.